City at 9/11.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for thank you for being here tonight. First order of business is that we are starting the Borough Board, and in accordance with Section 13 of the Borough Board bylaws, the following vice chair has been designated by their respective chair to serve as an alternate at the meeting of November 19, 2018. Second vice chair, Sheila Lewandowski. For chair, Denise Keene Smith, Committee Board 2. And second vice chair, Seymour Schwartz. For chairwoman, Martha Taylor, Committee Board 8. I'll accept a motion to approve this designation. Betty Bratton, Renee Curie, seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you very much. I do want to make some quick announcements. Number one, many of you read about it, but if you haven't, the Deputy Borough President has moved on. The former Deputy Borough President, Melvin Miller, has moved on to very exciting things in her future, and we're very happy for her and thankful for the work she's done for Queens in Queensborough Hall. But I would like to introduce to some and verify for others. This is our new Deputy Borough President, Sharon Lee, who many of you will already know. So I'm excited, and we will do a lot of great work together over the next few years, I'm convinced. So thank you so much. I want everybody to know her, because at times also she'll be chairing the meeting, and also in our communities. So we tonight have the New York City Charter Revision Commission. I would like to acknowledge Eddie Guerrero, who is our Eddie Aguardo, who is our representative on the commission. I want to thank him for the work that he has done, and thank him for accepting the nomination. We did appreciate that.
I don't know whether to say thank you or...
Forgive me.
Yeah.
Forgive me. New York City's charter, established by the state legislature in 1897, is the city's constitution, creating the framework for our government. This charter controls how the city operates. The 2019 commission, made up of members appointed by the mayor, the speaker of the city council, all 5 borough presidents, the public advocate, and the controller, has a broad mandate to conduct a top-to-bottom review and will bring its recommendations to the public in November of 2019. With us this evening is Indiana Porta, Director of Outreach and Counsel for Charter Revision Commission 2019, and Outreach Liaison, Stephanie Elaine, both of whom will deliver a presentation on what to expect as we move along in the process. Thank you for joining us this evening. Please begin.
Thank you very much. I can use the microphone or I can speak up. What do you prefer?
You should use a microphone. There's some people
Is that right?
that might want the voice to be booming.
All right, I can certainly do that.
Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Indiana Porta, and I am one of the attorneys working on the 2019 Charter Revision Commission, as well as the Director of Outreach. And I am joined, as you heard, by my colleague Stephanie Aline, and I will let her introduce herself in just a moment. We have a 90-second clip that I'd love to play for you guys. And before doing that, I'll just kick us off by saying one thing. I'm sure you're aware that there was another Charter Revision Commission working to revise our city's framework structure, and that had 3 proposals on the November 2018 ballot. So I just want to start off by saying that actually we are here representing another commission, and we'll talk a little bit more about how they do or don't work together, and we're happy to answer questions about that after this short clip. Also, thank you for having us, Borough President. Thank you so much.
Soon, every New Yorker will have a chance to help shape New York City's future. The 2019 New York City Charter Commission needs your ideas to create a better charter. In 1897, the charter, our city's constitution, was created to control how the city spends our dollars, how decisions of our neighborhoods are made, and the power of our elected officials. It's time for a fresh look, a top-to-bottom review. The 2019 Charter Commission needs New Yorkers to attend public hearings and share ideas that will shape how how our city looks and runs in the future. We've already heard from New Yorkers who want the commission to look at how to increase civic participation, how land is developed, and to evaluate the balance of power within city government. Think big picture and tell us what needs to be changed about our city government. Changes you will vote on in November 2019. Share your thoughts about how to make the best city in the world even better. Visit our website at www.charter2019.nyc to check local hearing dates and submit proposals online. You can also tweet us your ideas at Charter2019NYC. Let's work together to shape our city's future.
Great, well, thank you so much.
Yay!
Next time I'll bring popcorn. All right, so as you heard, the work that we are doing right now is in preparation for a vote in November 2019. And what this commission, well, I'll take a step back. It was created through legislation that was sponsored by the Manhattan Borough President, Gail Brewer, by Public Advocate Letitia James, and by City Council Speaker Corey Johnson, and passed by the council. It created a 15-member commission, one of the commissioners is Eduardo Cordero Sr., and we are unique in a sense because the commissioners are appointed by different elected officials in the city. And so rather than having one elected official appoint every member of the commission, we had the mayor appointed 4, the city council appointed 4, each of the borough presidents appointed 1, as did the public advocate and the comptroller also appoint 1. And so the idea there is just to have a lot of different geographic diversity, expertise, and professional diversity in the background of the commissioners. Of course, you know, all other types of diversity, but really looking for folks across the 5 boroughs who brought different things to the table. So we've got commissioners with strong labor background, and I will let our commissioner introduce himself in a moment. We also have Commissioner Reverend Miller, who comes to us from faith communities. We've got folks who are in free legal services, like Commissioner Nouri, who is an attorney for legal aid. So really a mix, former council members, agency heads. And the idea is that we have a year to do a top to bottom review of the charter. And it's a very wonky document that's basically like our city's constitution. So because we have a year, our main goal is to put this on New Yorkers' radars really early on and kind of demystify the process, right? We are not expecting legal memos right now. We are out so that they know that there's a change coming and that they know how to plug in. So I'll just stop there briefly, and I will let Commissioner Cordero introduce himself and maybe give you a sense of, what his vision is or anything he'd like to share with you.
Well, first of all, again, thank you, Borough President, for the appointment. Welcome, everybody. I'm a retired union representative. I put in over 32 years with the United Food and Commercial Workers Union, representing the supermarket industry and the wholesale and retail division. I'm a member of the community. I've been in Queens for 40 years. I live in the Kew Garden Hills area, right off of Main Street and Jewel Avenue. I've been in that area, obviously, for 40 years, originally a Bronx boy. But this came about somewhat unexpectedly. I appreciate being asked and being given the opportunity. Obviously, I've been a union activist and an advocate for civil rights for a long time, and this is very eye-opening. It's very important to me. I'm proud to obviously represent Queens in this process. I'm hoping that I'm going to say I'm cautiously optimistic that we can accomplish what we're trying to do here. It's going to be tough, but we hope that we get enough New Yorkers to come out and voice their opinions and get involved in the process in order to make it work. It's important. It's a lot of hours, a lot of long hours. I was told it would be something that we do part-time on a voluntary basis. And I'm retired and I'm putting more time into this than I ever did while I was working. So, but it's a pleasure to represent the Borough of Queens and to have the opportunity by the Borough President. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so with introductions complete, the city charter, as we mentioned, it sets the city's framework, right? It talks about what are the powers of each elected official. It talks about land use and the process to rezone. It talks about procurement and how the city enters into contracts, how it disperses funds to organizations like nonprofits that serve New Yorkers in various social service capacities. The city charter also sets out what are our city's agencies and what are the duties of the commissioner. How is the commissioner appointed? What are the ways to hold those agencies accountable? And so whenever we're thinking about the charter and charter amendments, think big picture. It's not about a particular rezoning project that may be controversial. It's not about highlighting the need for a rec center in your neighborhood. It's more about what are the current ways that exist for you to tell government that you need these things, and if they tell you that they're going to build them, what are the ways to hold them accountable? If they do not build them, what are the ways to continue pushing to really highlight what the need is within the community? And so it's about process. Think about the process. And as I mentioned briefly before, I never thought about the city charter before working in city government. So we recognize that, and we recognize that hearings can be intimidating and that it's an abstract kind of concept and folks may not feel sure that they've got something to contribute. And so what we are doing right now is really going out into the community and talking about priorities. And then leave it up to staff to go behind the scenes, and we're going to go and do the legal research and the heavy lifting. And so we are going out into the community and we are tabling at events. We are meeting with various coalitions like Human Services Council, Live on New York, which is a coalition of organizations that serve our seniors, just to give you some examples. And we're saying, what are your priorities? Because the commission has the authority to do a top to bottom review of the charter. But realistically, we can't overhaul city government in a year. So what we're trying to do right now, up until the holidays, is really get a strong sense of what issues do New Yorkers care about the most. So we did kick off a round of hearings, one in each borough, in September, and each of our hearings was at least 3 hours long, which, you know, we certainly did a lot of outreach, but I think we were surprised by the level of interest and turnout. We received over 300 ideas already, and we've actually got a short video clip, which I will not show today, but we just posted it on our social media and we'll be emailing out tomorrow that can give you a recap. We basically picked the main themes throughout the hearing and just showed you clips, so it's like a 90-second catch-up video. And what we're trying to do then in December is the commissioners are going to come together after they've read the testimony again. Obviously, you know, they were there at the hearings, and started to receive materials from our legal research and policy staff, and they're going to pick on what issue areas they're going to explore further. So right now is the period where anything can be put on the table. We want to know, are you interested in land use? If so, are there particular things that you think should be different? Now's the time to email us. You've got our Charter 101 pamphlet that on the back has the various ways that you can contact us and share your ideas. It can be 2 sentences. Again, it's just about getting a sense of what are the priorities and how many people are impacted by the issue that they're raising. We also have a website. It's charter2019.nyc, and you can submit your ideas directly through the website as well as upload documents. And so right now, we are also just today putting out a list, a very brief summary of what are the different ideas we've received so far. So if you see that some of your ideas are represented in that list, we still encourage you to email us and let us know that you too think this is a priority. But I really would encourage you, if you see that something is missing, hey, nobody has said anything about XYZ agency, even if it's 2 sentences, now's the time to put it on the radar. Because whether we get 1 idea or the same idea 100 times, the commissioners they will know how many people highlighted the issue, but they're weighing them equally in terms of what advances to the next round of exploration. And the reason for that is we would never want to disadvantage a smaller group or a cause that maybe wasn't as well known, but could be a very beneficial change in the charter. So that basically brings us through December. The commissioners will hold a public meeting where they pick the focus areas. And then that meeting there won't be public testimony, but it will be noticed. It is open to the public. It will be webcast and posted online, just like all of our other meetings. And then early next year, we're in the first few months of next year, we are going to focus on having issue-specific hearings. So now that the commissioners have identified focus areas, they will invite experts to testify, they will invite the community to come and testify, and really start to dig deeper. And the way that we're envisioning this is a narrowing process. We identify the issue area, we identify some of the key changes that a lot of people are raising. This is what needs immediate attention. And then after we have those issue-specific hearings, the commissioners will draft proposals, and they'll be publicly released, and we'll have another round of hearings, at least one in each borough, to get feedback on the specific proposals as they were drafted and released. Now, again, we know hearings, it can be hard to make them. Sometimes you have to wait a long time. It can be intimidating. Hearings are not the only way to give feedback. So that info at charter2019.nyc, that email address, send it there. You can send feedback again through our website or even through Twitter. We are tracking, if you're using our hashtags and our handle, we're tracking feedback on social media as well. And let us know. You may not have an idea for a change for the charter, but I know all New Yorkers have opinions. So the instant that all of that starts to come to light, you say, hey, we're missing something, or I get the goal, and I think it's a good goal, but in practice, this will never work, and here's why. So whichever way you feel most comfortable, we, giving your feedback. Then, to kind of wrap up the timeline, after the hearings on the draft proposals, we'll continue to refine them based on the feedback that was received. The commissioners will hold a meeting and decide which proposals are going to be on the ballot. And then at that point, it will be a huge get out the vote and community education effort. And so staff is playing a neutral position, and we're actually, that's intentional. We're not lobbying for one proposal over another. We've got different elected officials represented on the commission, different boroughs, different interests, and so we're not going to push one way or another. And so it has to be community-led effort. We are, working really hard to produce educational materials, to translate materials. We're doing videos to serve low literacy communities. But once we say, these are the proposals and this is what we currently do and the proposed change, any kind of organizing behind that needs to happen, from the community level. So that is a lot of information. I'm happy to take questions about that. And if there are no questions, then I'll let Stephanie talk a little bit about our outreach efforts. But I'm happy to take questions about timeline and process kind of as they bubble up.
Why don't you go through, so how is this going to work? So really, first of all, the reason I have the chairs instead of the cabinet, because we usually do more land use and economic development type issues. The reason the chairs are here is because a lot of them have the most experience when it comes to government process, right? These are your experts on ULURP, these are your experts on the BSA variances, these are the experts on a lot of the things the process of government has affected. So I wanted the chairs to hear this because they're the ones that are going to be talking to the community boards. And if you want to talk about ULURP and BSA, which is really our major focus to some extent, they would be the ones to give some advice or different changes. But how do you envision this happening? It's a lot of stuff in the charter, right? For those of you that haven't read it, most of you have at least seen copies of the charter over the years. I don't know, like 30 sections, whatever, that's right?
74 sections, 340 pages long.
To be
Which is
exact.
why I have the chairs here instead of the district map. So how do you envision narrowing this down, right? Like, you have to also remember that a lot of folks at this table have been through this more than once,
Absolutely.
right? So we've been through this a lot. And so the question becomes, you know, how are you looking at mostly land use? Are you looking at mostly secession? Are you looking at, I mean, last time they did a charter revision, I think it went to public advocate, went from being the deputy mayor to like 60 days or whatever it was. So what's the focus?
There is no focus. And I know that answer is not a satisfying one, but it is, again, intentional, right? Sometimes when other commissions have been called to do charter revision, there was an indication of what issues to look at, and sometimes even, you know, what the desired end game is, and that's not what happened here. That's why we felt that it wasn't overlapping or duplicative to have a committee that was doing a full review when the mayoral commission was looking at community boards and civic engagement, as well as campaign finance. And really what we're doing right now is getting broad ideas. The commissioners will have some factors that they consider, and so among them are issues like sometimes the charter can be changed without requiring a vote or a referendum. So there will be a focus on, are any of these ideas that are highlighted as priorities ones that maybe don't need a vote, or some that like certainly require a vote, then those might get some weight. It will be up to the individual commissioners, right? We're asking them, now that you see the list of ideas, what are you interested in exploring more? Other things are other factors, whether the mayoral commission addressed the issue, and we have gotten a question of whether we would revisit, you know, community board term limits and things of that matter. The commissioners are discussing that.
I like the term.
Nothing is off the table right now. Nothing is off the table, but, you know, it could be the case where, you know, maybe we say it's too soon, we haven't really seen it implemented, so it can be hard to make a change. Or somebody says, New Yorkers already weighed in on this. But again, nothing's off the table. So if there are things you want considered, now is the time to submit them. They can be bulleted lists, emails.
Okay, Shulandowski, Bertine.
Related to what, you know, the response to the borough president's question, I'm going to go back and report to my board, and one of the questions they're going to have is how this connects to the referendums that were just passed. And there's, what you mentioned about there not being any, you taking sides, like this commission not taking sides, that certainly did not feel like the case before. So I want to be able to tell them, that happened, that was the mayor's, this is happening at citywide, and there is the potential to revisit these things, and that is being looked at now. Can I say that?
Yes. And I would just say again that the commissioners are still discussing among themselves how to handle these requests for, you know, revisiting. Maybe they will address issues in the issue area and deal with community boards, but might not touch specifically on term limits.
But it's possible.
But it's possible. Nothing's off the table, and so now is the time to submit it. Ideally by the end of the month, so that it can get considered in this round of, you know, this vote that commissioners are having in December. But really, we are flexible, right? We understand that people are busy and this is hard to kind of wrap around. So we're, again, just really stressing, what are your priorities? If the issue advances to the next stage, we'll continue to take ideas. So you can submit again and say, all right, so now that we're going to look at procurement, for example, now here are my 3 specific ideas. And you can say, I'm meeting with a coalition next week, so we'll come back to you with how we think number 2 should be implemented. It will be an ongoing discussion, and we envision having things like working group meetings when we're talking about the language on the ballot, or maybe legal requirements or technical matters. We also envision doing very grassroots outreach and saying, you know, we're going to have a town hall in East New York, and we're going to just do like a pretty basic Charter 101, and, you know, we're talking about land use, and this is kind of how it works, but we're you know, really it's just about talking, and we've taken it on the staff side to do the research and find where is the charter amendment in what we're hearing among the priorities. So yes, it's intentional that we are not taking sides. We want to be respectful of all the different viewpoints of the commissioners, and we realize that they may not all be on the same page, and so our job is to raise awareness of what's happening and how to get involved.
Betty, then Vinny?
Yeah, in regard to land use, I'm looking at land use in the light of the passage of the terminals law, charter changes. Basically, we are the people who are going to have to teach the next layer of community board people the land use process. And if you're going to start tinkering with the land use process, we're not going to be able to do that because we would be learning it ourselves.
Very helpful.
And in terms of ULURP, it may not be the world's most perfect process, but people in communities, and that I would venture to say that would be true all over this city, people just know I'm for this or I'm against this. It's the community boards that take the community's opinions on things and make them part of the ULURP process. And by and large, over the years since the changes in the 80s that made ULURP, it has worked. And I would strongly urge you to remove that from your considerations at this point in time. There are other ways to tweak the ULURP process, but it should not be cheated with at this point. One of the things, particularly in this borough, at least in the portion of the borough where my board is that people are extremely suspicious of anything city government is doing, that they are trying to remove people from the processes. We're doing all kinds of little outreach, but you're not reaching people. For example, if this borough board, which is comprised of the 14 chairs and the 14 council members of this borough, were to submit to you a proposal, or would you look at it with the weight that it speaks to this borough? Or you would just equate it, okay, we've got 300 ideas from individual citizens, and the people who are involved in the processes say this, but these 300 people say something else.
Sure. Two things. One, that feedback is really helpful, and just like we want your ideas, we do want to hear if you have concerns about ideas that have been submitted or issue areas that we're looking to advance. That is just as important, so thank you. And we're certainly happy to run that back to our teams, but I would encourage you to submit it, even 2 sentences, via email or via our website.
Sentences doesn't shape us.
Oh, well, I mean, no, absolutely, but you're welcome to submit more. I think what I'm trying to say is we're not expecting a legal memo. You're welcome to submit it.
The point I'm trying to make, you're going to get ideas,
Sure.
we all hear it all the time. There ought to be a law. There ought to be, why don't they do this?
Sure.
There's a lot more that goes into this than people understand.
Sure.
And you're encouraging to a great deal the simplification of the concepts of charter. And that's not going to work too well, in my opinion.
Okay, well, that's helpful too. No, it's helpful as well. I do, I think maybe that's on me that I've oversimplified it, but when we talk about outreach and community education, again, we are viewing it in different, target audiences. Like I said, we will have working group meetings where we're going to focus more on the technical aspects, where we bring in community board members, experts, legal staff, and then we also have more community and grassroots events. So we do recognize that there are different spaces to discuss these ideas, and some may be more technical in nature and some may be more about policy and how communities feel in general. We think that to be successful, we need both. And so that's what that's our goal, and that's how we're planning our outreach strategy.
Indiana and Penny, I think, because you're one of the commissioners. I think what Ms. Brown's trying to ask is that, there are a lot of people that are going to opine.
Mm-hmm.
But the land use process especially is extremely technical, and there is an understanding that chairs bring to it and elected officials bring to it that may not be as self-evident in the community, and we would be happy But you know, the community is very well aware of the fact that they have single-family homes and would like it to remain single-family homes, and those are great comments. But I think what Betty's trying to ask is how you're going to wait. Like if we did an opinion by the Borough Board that said, hey, we believe this process is wrong, and there are 14 council members and 14 chairs who have been through this for a lot of years, how would you weight that, or how would that work with the commission?
So my understanding right now is that the commissioners will weigh what's most important to them, right? So we are collecting the feedback, and it doesn't hurt to be able to say we have experience with this, we have expertise, or we've got a large coalition that feels this way. We don't want smaller groups to feel disadvantaged in that they can't do a letter writing campaign, but it will be up to each individual commissioner what they weigh more, whether it's a very grassroots input or more expertise.
Vinnie, Board 5.
I'm a little confused. Maybe it's my technical background and training. Gene mentioned there's 74 sections, and you've created this commission to review the charter. Would you not start with section 1, 2, 3, 4, and go all the way down, at the same time getting input from the people? So what you're telling me is you're not doing that. You got a group of people that are just going to come up with ideas and look at it and listen to other people's ideas, and that's not how you review a document or create a document. You start with section 1. What's the purpose? What are we doing here? Looks good? Okay, we'll leave that alone. But we got 4 words that no longer fit the English language since we've become the world's borough. We have things like that. But you're not doing it. So I don't think this is a worthwhile effort.
All right, well, again, all of this is very helpful. I will stress that we are doing that internally. We do have legal staff and policy staff. So the outreach is to get a sense, though, of what the community's priorities are. We could come up with a list as staff of what we think needs to be changed, and then the critique would be that we picked what we wanted to do and didn't really engage the community. So I think it's about striking a balance, and these are all really great points that we do constantly run up, and we can reassess our strategy. I think because we are a new organization and our structure is unique, we are flexible, and we can make tweaks to the factors or how these things are discussed and considered.
So, yeah, and I do think it's important to point out that this all is a result. The speaker did make calls around the city and try to find out what was on people's minds. And he wanted to set up a charter commission where there could be public hearings to hear what, what people were thinking in the neighborhoods. But I do think that Mr. Curie has a point, which is that perhaps when you go out to the public hearings, people don't always know what's in the charter. Right? And I mean, you're right, by the way, it's 74, just so you know. We looked it up.
You challenged?
Remember, he's retired now.
I knew better than to challenge you. I looked it up first. I do think, though, that there should be a way for people who are at these hearings, or maybe if they sign up to speak at the hearing, to get some sort of summaries or something like that. Because I think it's a good idea. But I think that people aren't always aware of what's in it. And I do think that Mr. Pierce's point is a good one. Even if nobody mentions a certain provision that deals with some minute or minutia, that the Charter Commission should take a look at it at least to figure out whether it's outdated, it was written in 1942,
Absolutely, and they are.
Okay.
We are. Again, I would just stress this is a balance. Right? We are doing internal reviews in a very kind of methodical, down the list kind of way. We are reaching out at the grassroots level and just talking about priorities. Again, we're also meeting with organizations at the staff level and coalitions at the staff level. So we are getting some of that technical feedback, and we are now here at the borough boards to get community board feedback. And I would just stress that we are still early in the process. And so there are still lots of opportunities to chime in, and this is helpful, whether you agree with what we're doing or not, or with the idea or not. We need that feedback, and I welcome it. But it will have to be community-led. So if there are, particular issues that are really important to you, this is the opportunity then for you guys to organize around that. So we're doing both.
When you
Trying to
say
get-
this, you don't mean here, you mean like in the next few months, right? You don't mean like they should.
Yeah, no, not right now, yeah, right.
Because you
No,
think they
thank
have.
you. Yeah.
My children probably need to go to school in the morning.
Right.
So, Gene Kelty, please.
Okay. And you said it, but I had wrote it down before you said it. What the borough president is correct. When I said there were 74 and 340 pages, I don't do Facebook, I don't do Twitter, I don't do Instagram, and I'm sure there's a lot of senior people that do not do that.
Absolutely.
So one of the things I was going to suggest to you is, since we all have them, is the public libraries. Maybe the commission should put out 3 or 4 of the charters in the public written photocopy so that the people can actually see. Even though you can look on a computer, reading on a computer is very hard. But the most important thing, as she said, was the summary. I don't know how old you are, I'm 64, and when I went to school, we used to have Cliff Notes and Monarch Notes. And that's what this needs, is that could give the 74 chapters in 1 or 2 little things, so that if the person really wants to look at something, then they can go to the chapter and see it. But I was just saying tonight, I don't think there's anything that impeaches the mayor if she does something wrong. The president we can, but the governor and the city doesn't. So I find that that's really a tough thing and odd thing, that we can't impeach a mayor who can continue, whoever it is, to keep going. But I would look at that if it wasn't in the basic Cliff Notes. So maybe you should do a Cliff Note book with just each one of the chapters, just a few things on what the responsibility is, like how we have all done. Most people voted on that election things because they believe term limits is the answer to the world's problem. They think everybody is crooked and they don't want to wait, and they just throw everybody out with the bathwater. And I'll just tell you, for your instance, even though it affects me, I think I have 8 years according to the constant thing. I'm not staying 8 years. If the people of New York think that that was such an important thing, then I'm leaving when my term is up. For the reason being is, why should I be thankful for the people that thought that was the right thing to do? This board has been evaluated by the council people and the borough presidents, and I've gone through 3 borough presidents. So each time they reviewed my things, that's the checks and balances we have. That's the difference, and that's what the people didn't understand. They just know term limits is the answer. Throw the baby out with the bathwater, and who cares? And they don't care. As I said, I listen to Vinny all the time because of his expertise in the thing. He was instrumental during Hurricane Katrina with the flood zones. He was warning of the danger that the federal government was trying to change the flood zones on us, which would affect a lot of people in College Point and Far Rockaway and stuff like that. That's the things that Joe Q. Public doesn't hear. The people that they were earmarked, it was a lot of the younger people, the middle-aged kids that do use the social media and stuff, but the older people don't. They rely on, we are the only ones that have public hearings. And I don't mean the borough president doesn't, but we are required every month, except the summertime, to have public hearings where there's public participation. If you guys sent us an update once a month of what you guys were talking about, we can then give it to the public and say, by the way, here's what's happening that the council's done, the commission has done in June. Here's what they've done in January. We could give that information to the public that comes to our meetings, because we're there and required to have it. Okay, so those are suggestions.
Thank you. So I will say one thing on the timing. We did have our round of hearings in September, but we then laid low because as we started our outreach, we were hearing from community groups and even some community boards saying, everyone's focused on the mayoral commission right now. You're going to confuse people about when you vote. Is it 2018? Is it 2019? What are the issues? And frankly, as I mentioned, we need our community partners to amplify the message. And they were saying, we don't have the capacity to sit down and explain this right now to the groups that we serve. So then that was why in October we focused a lot of our outreach on organizations and coalitions at the staff level. And now that the election is done, we are launching our, kicking off really and ramping up our community and more grassroots outreach. I do agree that educational materials are helpful and we are working on that.
And most of the boards have civic groups, business groups, and houses of worship groups. You can get the list from us to send those people out that you want to send it to.
And that's why we're here, because this is exactly the kind of feedback that we want. And we're building our list. We will be reaching out with our materials to push out and share with you. But again, just on the matter of timing, we got a lot of feedback saying this is very confusing and you're going to confuse people for this vote. And so we were mindful of that. And now, all of these ideas we take in and we adjust and we move. So it's very helpful. And if you have other meetings and things that you'd like for us to come and present at, then please let us know. We are a small team, and so we couldn't hit every community board individually as staff, so that's why we're doing borough board meetings. If you have other coalitions or groups that want to come together, that would be very helpful for us, and we'd be happy to come in if we've got staff available.
So, Jean, just because, I know that I require applications from everyone to apply to the community board, but I'm pretty sure I don't actually need one to appoint you. Again,
You have 50% of the votes.
I got all the votes for broke.
You appoint everybody, but you
I
get
appoint
50%. Yeah.
So,
What would they do if we've all resided in Rockford?
That is not allowed. That is not allowed.
killing me. Listen,
Well, that's a possibility.
It's a possibility.
so, I love you guys. So, in all seriousness, to follow up with Mr. Kelty's point. So, first of all, what is the process by which you see this happening, right? Because it's a lot of, we care, we want this, and I appreciate all of that, I do. So what happens? So how do they get the information to their members? And if you're not going to the community boards individually, although there's 64 community, I'm not Gene, how many community boards?
59.
59 community boards. And he did that without Google. You see, that's our Cliff Notes now, Google, right? My son thinks
Yes.
Mr. Google's the smartest person in the world. So how do we get the information, get opinions from the community board members? Although, is the community board members allowed to give opinions as the community board?
You'll have to give
In
opinions.
their individual capacity, yes, I'm not sure about.
Do we know?
We'll talk offline.
So we need to figure out,
You can look at my response to what came out.
so we need to
In
figure
one
out,
word,
right.
I explained it.
I don't even need to know the word.
Vicky knows.
So we do need to know how you want, first of all, the timing, how you want folks to respond, in what method should they get the opinions to you, and what's the final deadline of the first round of opinions.
We are hoping to get as much feedback as we can, even if it's not pinned down completely, but issue areas, priorities, ideally by the end of this month, but we'll continue accepting.
By the end of November?
Yes.
December?
By the, well, yes, but we, like I said, that's just to get it, that's what our target date is. We are continuing to accept ideas on a rolling basis. And again, it's because we are trying to get a sense for what are the priority issues. In terms of how to submit, writing is always the most helpful, and we do have email and our website, but I'm happy if someone gives us a call or wants to talk by phone. We're certainly happy to sit and take down the ideas, or to organize meetings where we can take down the ideas and we run them back to staff.
Okay, Marie, Christine, and Sheila.
I just want to know, do you have a list of priorities on your public meetings already?
So just today, we've got a document that is being pushed out. We are trying to keep things exactly the same for all of the borough board meetings, and so, here. So we didn't hand them out at the other ones, and we didn't hand them out for this, but we've got a couple of documents here.
Because I think that would be good to send out also.
And we will, yep.
So some people have no idea, I'm not saying on the community board, but I'm saying members of civics, what they could comment on. So
Absolutely.
that might get them thinking.
Yep. So again, we were asked to lay low a little bit on the outreach. Now's the time that we're coming out. So on our website, we've got our Charter 101 video. We've got our Charter 101 pamphlet that you've got here. We are translating it into 11 languages in addition to English. You'll also find, and these are hot off the presses, we've got the timeline in a graphic that's shareable on social media. It's printable. It's kind of an at-a-glance summary of the work that we're doing. They just were finished today, which is why we don't have them printed. And then, other ways basically to talk about the process and how we're basically interested in general ideas right now. There's also a document that's got a cover page, and this is kind of where we're talking about issue areas. So it says elections, and then we've got, for example, Board of Elections, and it references pages. It's a longer document, and it talks about the specific ideas, and they're broken down. But all of that, again, we were kind of asked to hold off a little bit, and then now that the election is done, we've posted it online. You'll be getting it in an email tomorrow, but we're just really focusing on keeping our presentations consistent throughout so that, you know, every borough board feels like we treated them fairly, and so you'll be getting all that information tomorrow. It is posted online just today.
Christine?
Okay. Borough President, I want to thank you for, hosting them this evening. This is important that we know this. It's very important. And I have to bring this back to my board, of course, and I'm trying to make as many notes as I can. I think all the questions that have been asked around this table are excellent, excellent questions. And I am concerned, though, about how things will be weighed that you receive. I'm very concerned about that. When I heard the question, 14 community boards, 14 council members, if we give you a proposal, backed by those people, how will that be weighed? That really concerned me. That should have a lot of weight, and not just what the commission thinks is important. And that's what you basically said. Now, secondly, Vinnie and I were talking, and will we have to establish a charter revision special committee on our boards now? Would that be recommended?
That's something that I probably cannot opine on.
No.
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, obviously, there's no requirement to do that, but if you do think that your board can weigh in on these issues, or that there should be a process within your board to weigh what is important to board members, I don't think that there would be anything preventing that.
Alan is the counsel to the Borough President's office.
Thank you, I was just going to ask that question.
Yeah, I know.
He's the
I just walked in.
But the law department's position,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
we're not allowed to make those comments.
No, the law department, I thought, was if we were sending it out as a resolution, okay?
No,
Now,
no, because when I replied to them in my one-word statement, they came back to me with a long description, that said, we can't do it, period.
So I'm not going to dwell on this. I did see your email and it was actually blanked out, so I can only imagine what it was. But my understanding, based on that law department memo, is that there was a prohibition on community boards engaging in political activities.
Yeah.
And the cutoff was whenever those proposals actually went on the ballot. So the prohibition was on community boards saying you should vote this way, you should vote this way, and then using your city resources to advocate for that one way or the other. But at this point, we're just soliciting input from the community. I think that that's substantively different. Now, I'm not advising you to do one thing or the other. I'm going to hedge this in lawyerly language right now. I think it would be interesting to get the law department's opinion on this. But at least in my opinion, I don't think there's any issue at this point.
We will verify that, and in a few days, we will get an email that says one way or the other from the conflict of interest and the law department.
I think what we'd like to say, if you don't mind me interrupting, Christine, is that just when you said 74 chapters, I have a lot of my board, we all have chairs of committees. In other words, zoning committees, public safety and stuff like that. If I want to give them the 5 different sections of the charter and say, take a look at this, review these, see if there's any holes that you think that we need to plug. And our answer is to send a letter to the borough president and say, we reviewed the charter with these chapters and this, and this is what we suggest maybe need to be checked. Not to send out to the public, but to advise the borough president, who's our our head person, to say, these are the chapters we reviewed, and we feel that this may need revising or stuff like that. That's what I think we're looking for, is because we have the time and the volunteers to do that, and we have the people that have the expertise because they've been doing it for years. So I just don't want to be in conflict with the law department, which automatically came out within 2 days. They couldn't come out sooner with anything else, but they managed to do that in 2 days to come out, that we couldn't send out resolutions.
But now we know we can. Now they know they can. So
We'll find out.
Yes, but I'm just saying if we could find out.
yeah, but all of this is going to be problematic in the next 14 days, right? Or
Yeah.
So I think we need to figure that out.
So I will defer to your counsel on, what you can and cannot do in terms of official community board capacity. In terms of the factors, the commissioners will know who has submitted the ideas, who's signed on. They've got the actual, the packets of letters. So I can't imagine that it wouldn't carry weight. What I'm saying though is I would never want to discourage a smaller organization from submitting their ideas and just thinking we don't stand a chance because we can't do a letter writing campaign. So I do think that it would be powerful to send it. I can't say that that would automatically push the issue to the next round, but I do think that the commissioner seeing who it's coming from, who's represented, who supports the idea, would carry weight. I just don't think it would be a determining factor of, yes, this automatically goes to the next pile. I, again, would just remind you that there are pros and cons to having appointees from different elected officials, right? It's something new, they're still figuring out within themselves, like, how do we weigh this? What are the priorities? How are we processing? I'm happy, and we will run all of this back up, and if I have additional information or guidance as they continue to pin those things down, happy to report back. But really my understanding right now is that there are lots of factors that are considered. We're getting a lot of ideas we don't have the authority to do. We're getting ideas that may not require a vote versus some that do. And then again, the open question about anything that the mayoral commission addressed. So that is still a little bit in flux, and this is all very helpful and the reason that we're here. We want to hear the good and, what we're not doing so good.
Ms. Wendowski and then Mr. Williams.
So a couple of things. I'll start with my 3 recommendations up front. One is to revisit your timeline. Because I feel that it is a very short period of time. It will appear disingenuous that on one hand the commission is saying they are looking for feedback, especially from small groups and especially from communities, when you're basically saying you have 2 weeks over Thanksgiving in which to influence what the commission decides the priorities are. And since most people in the city, most people anywhere, do not have a clue as to what is in that charter, that adds to the sense of cynicism that people will have if you're going out there and saying you really want people to chime in. So that's the first one. I think that you should have that pamphlet, the idea with the Cliff Notes. Yes, I remember Cliff Notes.
I remember Cliff Notes.
Yeah, but that's the yellow book.
Yes.
That's the yellow book.
I didn't have a cell phone till college. Like, yeah, you guys.
Okay.
You had a cell phone in college?
Yeah.
But she didn't have the good clip.
I had a lot of quarters for college telephones.
But in revisiting the timeline, going backwards from what is the date the cutoff is to put these items on the ballot for next November, what is that date?
September.
Okay, from here to there, thinking about getting that Cliff Note book pamphlet out in the libraries, to community boards, to schools. I'm thinking about, children in schools. Like, treat people with respect and give them the 74 sections with a summary and say nothing is too obscure to be possibly important. Because right now, all you're going to hear about is land use and term limits. Because most people have no idea, coming back to your point, that they think that is the solution to everything. And this is an educational opportunity. If you're serious about taking advantage of this and teaching people about the city charter, teaching people about civic participation, then take advantage of it and really revisit that timeline. Because right now, blacked out what I was going to say it feels like. Because that's what it feels like.
I understand completely. So,
Mr. Williams from Board 13.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I agree with my fellow chairs in embarking on this exercise and what I think is utility, because a couple of things are sticking in my mind. Christine raised the point, how is this going to be weighed? And unless I get some kind of specificity as to how this information that we're all wrapping our heads around is going to be considered, weighed, thought about, assessed, analyzed, then I don't want to go there. So I from you, I need specificity. Like in the very beginning, I need from you some kind of agenda to start with. It's very important that we know what our goal is and how we're going to go after that goal. And for me to create a narrative, around this revision thing, without knowing exactly what the rules are, I think it's kind of too vague for me.
I definitely hear your concerns. I understand completely both of you. What I will say is two things. One, you're right. This is very hard to understand, and there is some flexibility still in how the factors will be weighed. I think a lot of that is because the commissioners, are weighing different factors, and they may individually weigh things differently. What is most important to one commissioner may not be the top priority for another. I also would stress that we continue to take ideas. It's a rolling idea. What's happening right now in December it's a vote on very broad areas, right? When we're talking about governance, it's a 16-page document, right, of all the different ideas that have come in. And so, when we say land use, it's advancing to the next round, I guess, of research and public hearings and feedback. There's still room to continue submitting ideas and to discuss more specific issues. I think right now, also, that is why we're stressing that because the turnaround time is, somewhat, it's approaching, right? That we're talking about priority areas, and that when we do come to issues that we don't have the authority to do, or we don't, think we can tackle, we envision reaching back out to the groups or the individuals who suggested them and explaining, maybe why this is not advancing to the next round. We did kick off in July, and we did have a round of hearings in September, and we did, robust outreach for that. We actually held it here at Borough Hall, and each hearing was minimum 3 hours. So, we have started outreach and engaging with groups even over the summer, and we've got a lot of organizational outreach under our belts right now, and so it's not like we're starting our outreach. I certainly hear what you're saying, and I would just say this is an ongoing process, and the vote in December is for very general issue areas, so don't feel like, this is the end, and if you don't have it in 2 weeks, that's it. It's basically just saying, all right, this is kind of what we're hearing the most about. This is kind of what the commissioners want to explore further.
Yeah, so first of all, you can't have a vote in December if we're here on, what's the date? The 19th. It just doesn't work. So I don't know how that's possible. The whole point of the commission was to get community folks to opine. The whole point of the commission was not just to have the people who are so heavily involved in politics and all of that to opine on these issues. And so there's only 2 weeks. I don't know how that happened. So how many people were at the hearing a few weeks ago in Queens? Or a month ago?
It ran at least 3 hours.
Perfect.
We have over 300 ideas that came in just through the hearings alone, and we continue to receive them via email, through meetings like this.
So, I know you have Ms. Broughton's next, but let me just, so what are you going to give, what are we giving to the community board chairs to bring back to their committee members, or to send, because they can email their committee members to tell them what to do?
We're sending out an email that's going to have all of our materials attached to it. It's going to link to the videos that we've produced. Some of them are explainer videos. What is a community board? Here's the history, and we'll have a series of those. You will receive, basically, our messaging right now is just give us your ideas. Don't worry about charter, not charter. We are going to be doing that research, and in December, it really will be kind of a general discussion and vote on broad areas, and there's still an opportunity.
Let me just tell you what I need, all right? I need to be able to send to them a one-pager that says, "Dear community board member, in the next 3 weeks, when's the vote?"
It's being scheduled right now, but we're looking at mid-December.
So at the end of December, or beginning of January,
Christmas Eve.
in January, just FYI, there's going to be a vote of the commissioners of this new city planning, charter revision, whatever, right? They want opinions on how to make government work better. These are some of the, criteria. This is some of the elected officials sections, whatever it is. Borough President's Office, Community Board Office, land use, all of that. This is the link to Opine. So at the bare minimum, at least they've notified their community board members that this is happening and that they can opine on it. And hopefully, if you have the meeting a little later, they can actually have a community board meeting and talk to their members about
We'll
it.
certainly run it up the chain.
How is that for, an opinion?
Thank you.
Ms. Brown?
That kind of covers it, I'm gonna segue off what Mrs. Lewandowski said, basically, this is just far too simplified. If I were to give this out, what can the charter do? Establish the powers on limits on, I could generate you thousands of letters in 2 sentences saying, the mayor can't put a homeless shelter in Queens. Put limits on, we could generate that, but that's not what a charter does. It just is, we have to have more time, to do this over the holiday period is, ridiculous. It was the same thing with the other charter changes where it was done during the summertime. That just feeds the cynicism. And if we're gonna be serious about charter changes, it's gotta be approached a whole lot more seriously in terms of the reach out. We're dealing with people who have no grasp of what the charter is, what it does, and no matter how many times you tell them, they're not gonna bother to ever read. The same as what Gene said, people who voted on term limits never read the documents that were put out by the, they never even knew what it was gonna do. So,
All right, so
it's
I'm
just,
gonna,
this is just too simplified.
So I'm going to ask Ms. Hill and then Mr. Kelty to round, finalize it. Kelty, Gene, you get the last word here, and then I know Stephanie.
Okay.
Sorry, real quick. There was just one comment, a woman in striped shirt.
Dolores, did you have a question?
What are you doing?
No, I was just,
All right.
okay, because she just felt overlooked and she raised her hand and put it down.
Dolores is never overlooked in Trust me, when I tell you, if she wanted to be called, I would be seeing her.
We'll take it.
So,
Run with it.
let me just do Ms. Hill, Mr. Kelty, and then if Dolores feels left out, we have to.
I raised my hand 4 times, but it's okay.
Huh?
I did
Dolores,
raise my
go
hand 4
before me.
times, but
Alright,
it's okay.
Dolores.
It's not important.
Dolores.
Thank you. I'm good. I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
My question is,
So, I guess Joe?
they're coming back to the boards requesting input. I'm just a layman, but I would like to know what the administration idea is regarding the community boards. That's the question I get. What is the city administration going to do with our community board? I would like an answer back from City Hall on that. They have ideas. They don't need our ideas. They already have made up their mind on what they're going to do. They put it on the ballot. They put it on the ballot and they wouldn't let us speak about it. That's not right. That's not democratic. That's not the American way. Well, we were stopped from speaking on it. That was not right. But I would like to know from the mayor what his idea is regarding community boards. Does he want 5 members? Does he want 50 members? What does he want? And I think we should be entitled to that back from them. We'll give you the ideas, but I think the city has to come back to us and let us know what our future is. Should we re-up? Should we retire? What is it? The mayor has to give an answer back to the community board, in my personal opinion. That's what I feel is very important. Because when board members ask me, Joe, what's going to happen? I don't have the answer. And I think he's got an obligation to give us that answer. He can't hide behind, well, I want ideas from the public, period. He should have got that before the election. And he should have put the election in a different way, rather than the way it was worded on the ballot. And as Gene says, everybody voted to get rid of term limits. Nobody had any idea what they were voting on. Nobody, except maybe the board members. But again, I think he's got an obligation as the leader of this city to tell his community boards, this is what I would like to see. We can contradict him, we can do whatever. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen because he's the mayor. But again, I think we deserve the right to be told what's up here in his head regarding community boards. He's the man that put it out for the election. But what is his ID? Less members, more members, whatever. But at least give us some information that we're not out in limbo.
So,
We'll submit recommendations, but the recommendations are only going to the commissioners. And the commissioners are responsible to him.
no,
And they'll play around with the recommendations. No, it's not good, the recommendation, they'll discard them.
so I just want to be clear, I'm not disagreeing with you that we should talk to the mayor about the community boards and how he envisions the future. I will just say, though, that this commission is not controlled by the mayor's office. So the purpose of this commission was sort of to get another view. How many appointments does the mayor have?
4.
4. The mayor has 4.
Council has 4.
The city council has 4.
Each of the borough presidents
5
has
borough
1.
presidents have 1.
Comptroller and public advocate have 1.
And the controller and the public advocate. So, although I'm not disagreeing with you on what you're saying at all,
Thank you.
I'm saying, though, that this commission is meant to sort of counteract some of what, to get the community's opinion on some of the things that we've talked about in the past. I'm going to call Ms. Hill and Mr. Kelty, and then Ms. Orr can have a final say if she would like it.
I'm good.
All right,
Good,
Ms.
thank
Hill
you.
then.
Okay, so I'm here burning up. Because,
Are you hot or are you
when 2018 Charter Revision came out, I went online to look at why they decided to back the term limit. And they had the letters on that they received from people. You can go on and see what people had wrote them, and it was like 20 letters. 13 were from the same organization. It was a pro forma that people signed and sent in. And that was all they had. They said they got, so that's why I'm burning up, because I couldn't believe that they put this on the ballot from those 20 responses. It was less than 20, because I printed it up, because I couldn't believe it. And I have it at home, I gotta find it. And I'm sorry I didn't bring it today. So, are you all going to, first of all, that was good that they printed it, because I was able to see that hardly anyone asked for this term limit, except there's one organization that felt like they were left out because they were, I guess, a different nationality or something. I think it was a Chinese organization. I don't know the reason, but they had everyone writing in, all right? So are you gonna have it so we can see the letters like they did? Is it gonna be open like that? Transparent, okay. And if one group sends in 13, that is not the community board, or are you going to weigh it heavy like they did? And the last thing is, I'm sorry, I went to the meeting in October. Everyone was talking about the term limits.
Yeah.
And then other people were talking about dogs, saving dogs, and, so it's like, we need to get focused here.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thank you. So we are posting all of the testimony that we receive on our website. You've also got transcripts of the hearings and videos of the hearings posted on the website. We do, as I mentioned earlier, just today, put together like an at-a-glance one-pager of the issue areas we've received ideas in and the agencies that they touch upon, and then there is attached to that 15 or 16 more pages that then are like one-line summaries of the ideas that we've received, and that's online. As far as weighing factors, I think that the commissioners are very plugged into their communities, and so they know which communities are leading and which organizations lead on issues. I can't imagine that they would not weigh a community board or the borough president's opinion and give it proper weight and a lot of weight. So what we are telling groups, especially at the grassroots level, is it's not a numbers game. And we point to the fact that you may have a small organization that can't do a letter writing campaign. And those organizations' ideas and goals may be weighed evenly, but that doesn't mean that, there is a lot to be said with folks who are directly involved in the technical aspects of the work and the day-to-day work, the votes. So I can't imagine that they would not give that the proper weight.
Yeah, what made me even angrier was that the summer had just ended, and we didn't even have a chance to discuss it. And then you're taking these letters, these 13 or 14 letters, and weighing them very heavily.
Yeah, so I can't speak to the mayoral commission and their process and their reasoning, but What I can say is that we are hoping to be pretty open, which is why when I don't know, I tell you I don't know. And whenever you give us feedback, we take that seriously, and we're going to go and talk about it and see what we can do and reroute. We do have a year, and so I think that, quite frankly, it is a big undertaking to do top to bottom review, and so part of the reason for this vote in December is, again, just to say, like, all the things that we could cover, like, generally, off the cuff, what do you care about the most, right? We heard at hearings animal shelters, we heard at hearings police accountability or contract procurement. Like, when we're going out into the communities, what do you care about?
You can always add to that, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so it's ongoing. It really is, like, I cannot stress enough, a sense of just getting priorities. We can't take on and overhaul the whole government. So if you had to pick, what are your top 3 issues? They can be bullets, and then we can continue to refine within that multiple ideas. And then we do envision working groups, town halls, different audiences, and we are taking very seriously, you mentioned seniors earlier. We met with a coalition that serves seniors. Stephanie has background, social work background with seniors, and I come from free legal services and grassroots as well. So, like, we understand how to kind of plug into these communities, and we've been making an effort to do that. We do want to keep coming up with different materials for low literacy groups. We are talking to the libraries. We are doing interviews. Commissioner Cordero was doing TV interviews and spots. So we are trying to tackle this from different angles, but we, quite frankly, wanted to be respectful of the mayoral commission and also respectful of the groups who told us we don't have the capacity to explain to people why there are 2 commissions and what's going on, and you're going to confuse people about when the vote is. So we took that to heart.
One, I just want to make sure that, since my name came up 3 times, Committee Board 7 didn't say about term limits and stuff like that. That's my opinion. People just find that they like, so I don't want to be in the newspaper tomorrow saying Committee Board 7 did that. 2 things. One, on here it says visit to submit your proposals and stuff like that. One, I would just suggest that there's an automated response saying that we received it, just so that it doesn't go into cyber heaven and everybody thinks it was submitted.
Okay.
And the second thing is, again, that's what you started to say. If you're saying December is the end of that, you're going to do your bullet points, then if I decided that, say, I was going to go to section 54 in January, February, you're not going to look at it?
We are going to look at it.
Okay, so we can still submit to proposals on the thing, but you would like to get the bullet point things the meet that you would like by mid-December is what you were saying. Okay.
Basically, priorities. That's the word here, right? Like, we will continue to take ideas on an ongoing basis. We have a lot of meetings that are being scheduled right now between now and November. And so right now, it really is, what are the top issues to you? You know,
So, all right, so I'm going to stop. So this is what I think we need to have a way of wrapping this up, right?
Sure.
And I'm not sure that I'm clear on what that way is right now. Okay. So, just because I think a little more, I'm trying to be precise, right?
Yeah.
So, we need a way for the chairs to elicit responses from their members. Sending them a document that has 20 things in it is probably not going to elicit any responses, right? Maybe it will, maybe it won't, I don't know. But I think you need to have a one-pager so they can send it to their committee members, and that the committee members know that they should send it to their civics and precinct council and all the people that they represent on their block association. That should have a clear link as to how you get onto the comment page. And then the comment page is just free flow?
Yeah.
Okay, so, and would it be helpful if the chair said, hey, we know there's a lot you can opine on, perhaps you can number the first 5 that you're really interested in, and then, write out the rest, or would that help, or would that just hurt?
No, I don't think that it needs to get that complicated. Tell us what issues you care the most about.
Right, but no one's telling you what issues they care about without telling you their opinion on that issue.
Sure.
I care deeply about land use, but what I don't want is for you to change it in certain ways. I do want you to change it.
We certainly do want to hear
So I think that's a little bit too simple, right? We need to...
Maybe you could put the index of the charter in there, which has all the sections. At least if somebody pops out and they see land use, they may say, okay, let me look at the land use and put that in. But at least you'll have what 74 categories, because collective bargaining is nobody's gonna touch
So
that.
maybe that's a great, maybe if it's possible, I don't know if it's possible in the 2 weeks or 3 weeks we have before the first vote. But maybe when they go on to that opinion, that link, they do have the 74 categories that are highlighted in blue, right? That's right. Usually they're highlighted in blue when you can link onto something. I'm looking for everyone
Yes,
here.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
So they highlight that to show, if I want to comment on land use, click here.
Okay, that's a great idea. We can look into that. So we've got the charter posted on our website, but I will see what we can do in terms of the actual submission form. That's
Okay,
a great
let's
idea.
just say that does, in general.
And
we
we'll
wanna
work
give
to
them
get the
something so
one
there's a
pager
link.
for community boards.
They can just highlight and they can send it to all their civics, stuff like that, but that would have to be done relatively soon.
We're on it.
We may not be around after December. We may not even be here at the December meeting.
No, honestly, we really do appreciate this, and so, yeah, we'll get to work on that. I can't promise the form online just because I don't know what it takes to change up the design, but we do have the charter posted, and we will work to get a one-pager and something to you guys tomorrow so that you can push out, along with the email that we'll be blasting with all of the other attachments, but it is all posted on our website. I encourage you, if you've got a little time, to poke around through that, and we're happy to keep talking with you. And you know, if you want to set up a phone call, that info email address comes to me, and so I'll hop on the phone with you. You know, whatever we can do, because we have time.
Right.
We have time.
Okay. Guys, so we're going to get a one-page letter from the census, the charter, the Charter Revision Commission. We're going to send that to you. The one page is going to include a link for all these other things to look at. And then we should have, at least for now, until we know the timing, the community board members should know that they can directly respond and put their opinion on it. I would suggest that you ask them to print it out so that you can have copies of it. All right, just so you can keep track somehow of what they're saying, if they want to have you keep track. I mean, some people might want to opine without giving you it, that's fine too.
Would it
But-
be legal if we were to ask them to give it to the district manager? Let
So
the
I
district
think that
manager submit them?
I think Alan believes, and we're going to verify it, that the reason the community boards couldn't get involved last time is because it was post on the ballot. That it was already a referendum on the ballot. That putting it placed on the ballot, you would have been? I don't know, I'm asking.
Yeah.
We're going to verify that though.
Right, I will email all of you about this, that's my opinion at this point, though.
But that's different from the being a person and being able to go out there publicly, even to an elected official,
Exactly.
saying you want
There,
something.
That's
yeah,
exactly right.
there's absolutely nothing preventing anyone in your individual capacity from saying whatever you would like. The question
But
is, in
collection-
your, yeah.
So on the public
And
participation,
I
how
like to
the board
believe
members
that I
can
understand the English language, even though it was written by the law department, and their response to me was very clear.
Okay.
You should upset them then.
I'm going to wrap this up. We look forward to hearing from you. We thank you for the work you're trying to do. And we thank the speaker for headlining this and taking the lead. Eddie, we thank you for sitting on the commission and the work that you do. I know you're not doing it for the great pay. You do this well, I double your salary.
Yeah, I go from 1-0 to 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know that we've had, this is a great meeting, and I thank you for coming in very much. I'm sorry we didn't really get to hear from you a lot, but hopefully next time. We appreciate your presence here. Eddie, we appreciate your work on the commission. But ladies and gentlemen, look, I know there's a sense from a lot of us that we've been here, and we get it. But at some point it's going to take hold. And we do need to make our opinions known and our constituents' opinions known anytime we're asked. And so let's try to figure out how to do that in the most effective manner. In the meantime, I want to wish everyone a really happy Thanksgiving. We do a lot of great work together in this borough. You all are chairs of some amazing community boards. Queens is flourishing. And part of that flourishment is when not everyone agrees. And that's okay, and that's great. We have very active debates at our community boards, and sometimes we have very active ones here as well. And I know sometimes it feels underappreciated. But you should know that, at least from this community's, from this borough board, and from me and from the Borough of Queens, it's very much appreciated for the work that we do. And Queens is seeing the results. So thank you for that work you do. Have a great time with your families, however that family is. Friends are sometimes our chosen families as well. Whether we work at a senior center or we just have dinner with our kids and grandchildren. Just for my family, we always happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.
The next meeting is December 17th of 2018. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.